All right, folks. I'd love to get started, dive right in. Some of you who may have attended one of my presentations in the past might know me at this point, but my name is Arturo. For those of you that don't know me, those of you that do know me, my name is still Arturo. I just want to clarify that. And today we're going through the how to fill your bucket content that I work with within my department. I work for University Recreation and I operate within the challenge program and the climbing wall there. Been doing that for a number of years now. A little hard to count at this point. But this is a bit of content, how to fill your bucket, that I've really been excited to share with folks. It's been one of those pieces that has really quickly connected with me in that I use it in my daily language, if that makes sense. And hopefully that'll make a little more sense here as I go through the content. But I'll often find myself saying things to the effect of, that really fills my bucket. So let's carry on. How to fill your bucket. First off, this is not my content by any means. This is definitely an adaptation. Can you all hear me? Okay,
Yeah,
cool,
you're
cool,
doing
cool.
fine.
This is definitely an adaptation of the series of books, How Full Is Your Bucket? Now, there is a kid's book of this, which I fully recommend. You can find a YouTube reading that outlines a lot of what I'll be discussing today, but the content here is definitely adapted from here. You'll notice some of you are familiar with Gallup, Strengths Finder. This is content developed from that same organization. So food for thought for those of you that are curious. So I want you to picture just your average person, and above them, I want you to imagine a floating bucket. In our daily lives, we'll have things that fill our buckets and they contribute to our bucket. So that might be a few different types of things, and we'll get into that here in a moment. That might be compliments. That might be calls from a loved one to a loved one. Finding a dollar in my pocket is definitely one of those bucket filling moments for me. And then there's also draining your bucket, right? So on the opposite side, we might have things that kind of take things from our bucket. So at any point in time, I have a bucket that I operate under. Those are my norms, that is me. And there are going to be different things that contribute to my bucket on any given day. There are going to be some things that really pull away from my bucket. I put some of my key frustrations up here. I get a little frustrated whenever there's a driver in front of me that I don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. And so that really drains from my bucket. Someone might ask me, Arturo, why are you in a bad mood today? And that's tends to be so. So while we're here on this screen, I want to ask you all to help me populate some of these bullet points. Please add in, what are some of those bucket filling moments for you? Using the same example that I just used here, what are some ways that, so what are some things that fill your bucket and what are some things that drain your bucket? I'd love for you to use the annotation tool. And for those of you that are not familiar, there's a view options button right up here at the top. You'll see my mouse kind of hovering. And you can click the annotate button there and hit the text entry, or you can write into chat, which is more than okay as well, whatever works. If you do use the annotate, separate your filling and draining moments accordingly. I'll give you all like 39 seconds to go through that process. A great piece of music. Love that. Gardening, yeah. Bucket filling moment. I feel that. Bad drivers, someone else agrees with me. Yeah, solving a problem you've been working on, or learning a new skill, absolutely. Funny enough, I'm not sure exactly if that lands in filling or draining your bucket, but I remember learning to tie a bow tie, and that really drained my bucket. So some skills I'm a big fan of, some skills I don't want to see myself do again. Dogged, absolutely. Being recognized as an administrative assistant. Attitude of gratitude, very important, and cooking. A lot of bucket filling content here. I love it. Appreciate the check marks on the ones that you agree with and the ones that drain your bucket. Are there any others for draining your bucket, or did I kind of just hit all of them? Oh, there we go. Spilling the soup I just made is definitely something that I've done in the past and is on there. Global warming, yeah, the news these days, yeah, that can be really detrimental to like my mental health. And really the news can be something that can really drain me, generally speaking. The chat is currently popping off, so I'm going to make sure that I catch everybody here. Yeah, and patience, absolutely. Cool. So we got quite a few. We got plenty here. I'm gonna go ahead and clear our annotations just so the next slide doesn't get really confusing. So all of this goes hand in hand with the conversation on mindfulness and well-being. So we're talking about filling your bucket, but really it's a conversation about well-being. Some of you are probably already familiar with this, but if you're not, the 8 dimensions of well-being is one of the models that I'm a big fan of using to represent well-being. Like I said in the previous slide, depending on the day, some things might fill my bucket and some things might drain my bucket. And that has a lot to do with where I am on this well-being wheel. Well-being tends to be a spectrum as well. So when we're talking about filling your bucket and how, depending on the day, the impact might vary. Well-being is a big part of that. So learning a new skill absolutely stimulates my intellectual well-being. It might even stimulate my occupational well-being, and that's something that that really contributes to my my bucket filling content or my bucket filling goals. So we came here to identify how to fill your bucket, and here's a few that I outlined. Surround yourself in bucket filling moments. Puppies, someone mentioned dogs the other or earlier. Yeah, that is a great way to fill my bucket. I know that anytime that I see a what is it, a cat sanctuary? I saw one of these in Seattle the other day, or a cat cafe. This was, I say the other day, this was like maybe 6 months ago at this point. It was really cool just to walk in and play with a bunch of cats, play with a bunch of dogs at a shelter. It's something that made me feel good about that moment, that day. Playing a board game, even online. You can do that online with friends, with family. Definitely a way, especially in these times, to find unique and creative ways to fill your bucket. And this last picture for me represents filling someone else's bucket. There's nothing, there's a lot of gratifying feelings out in the universe. One of my favorites is helping someone feel good about themselves, helping fill someone else's bucket. I think it's really important to be mindful of how we're impacting others in this conversation and in this world. So I am 10 minutes in and I'm working towards the end here, but I do want to make a major emphasis on the fact that Gallup has a lot of this content created. If you're curious to learn more about it, I fully recommend diving into their content. One of my favorite things about the How Full Is Your Bucket book is there's a positive impact test and there are questions associated with it within that book. So one thing you can do is go through that, I believe, 15 questions and identify how positively are you impacting your workspace? How much are you filling your bucket and filling the buckets around you? I think it's really critical, especially when we work together, to be mindful of how we're filling each other's buckets and what kind of impact. How are we draining each other's buckets if that's the case? This is a great time for questions if anybody has any. Give a few moments to see if anything trickles in. Otherwise, I will click towards the next slide. One thing that did pop into the chat that I didn't see was a draining moment, not getting enough sleep. Yeah, that is a major bucket draining moment. And I didn't use this metaphor, but naturally there are going to be some things that are big drops of water that land into your bucket, and there are going to be some things that are poke big holes into your bucket. Me not being able to find my cat for 2 days, really gonna freak me out. Yeah, this is a really unique point. Oh, not a unique point. No offense to the lack of uniqueness, but I think this is really a really important point to make right now. A lot of my bucket filling happens out and about, and it can't happen right now. And I have a suspicion that a lot of us share this sentiment. So we're in a tricky time where we have to find alternatives to ways to fill our bucket. And that's why where we can't maybe find those like large water drops of bucket filling moments, I think it's really important to find maybe multiple smaller things to help us fill our buckets. I see some check marks associated with this one. When it comes to that conversation on well-being as well, I think one of those key pieces is being aware and building habits. This is a conversation I had during another one of my workshops, but building habits, it creates those neural pathways to have normalcy. Our normalcy has been disrupted. So we're in a position where we have to find new habits. So whether it be coordinator happy hour, whether it be board games with some friends and family online, unfortunately means unfortunately our norms have been disrupted. Unfortunately means we have to find a new way to fill our bucket. But the cool part is those new ways, they can carry on for quite a while. I'll ask this question before I hit the next slide, simply out of curiosity. Are there any things that people have been doing new to fill their buckets that they weren't finding themselves do 2 months ago? Maybe this is a selfish question because I'm trying to figure out what I can do, but feel free to hit me with that. Again, annotations are great. Chat is also okay. Picnics in the backyard. Yeah, picnics in the backyard are great. A great way to get some sun. I have these 2 beautiful double doors in my apartment, which I'm very grateful for. Up until the stay-at-home measures, I hadn't opened them both open. Now I've been doing that, and it's really nice to have a bunch of fresh air. I saw another one. I've gotten into video games for the first time ever. Yeah, those have a really unique property where they let you escape to a different world and play with and interact with different folks. Taking more time to keep up on household projects. I fully agree with that. If I could check mark that, I would. But really, my kitchen has never been cleaner than during this time, because I walk by it and I'm like, I'm not being productive right now at work. I guess I'll wash this plate. My boss is in here. Hope he doesn't think about that too much. Jackbox and visual games. Jackbox is a big shout out. Anyways, thank you for those ideas. And I do want to respect everyone's time. So I want to click us forward here. Filling your bucket is not a one-time thing. Every day your bucket resets. Maybe if it's been a bad day, part of your bucket starts off drained. Maybe if it was a really good day the day before, your bucket starts off a little bit full. But every day you have that bucket and you carry that bucket above your head. Now things contribute to it, things drain from it. Try to be mindful. I love the metaphor of, wow, that was the bucket filling moment for me. And I use that with a lot of my student staff just to communicate simply how things work well. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., same place, same time, same Zoom ID number. We're going to be with Cassandra Yarlot, sorry if I butchered that, from the Access Center, and she will be guiding us through mindful chair yoga. I want to thank everybody for their time. I want to thank everybody for the great ideas, great conversation. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Again, Arturo Gavilanes, and you can reach me at arturo.gavilanes@wsu.edu.